And can anybody question who I am here? If I say, come on. We're fighting, men. My son, I'll fight him now, and I'll fight anyone in the building. If anybody gets in my face, I'm knocking them out. Come on, John. I mean what I say. I'll bum you. I'm a machine. Me. And can anybody question who I am here? If I say, come on. We're fighting, men. My son, I'll fight him now, and I'll fight anyone in the building. If anybody gets in my face, I'm knocking them out. Come on, John. I mean what I say. I'll bum you, mate. I'll bum you. Anybody question who I am here? If I say, come on. Come and get it done.
My goodness gracious, this is unfolded terribly, folks. Now John's showing some shadow boxing.
Forget me, son. Forget me, son. I'm the king of the bare knuckle man.
Are trainers responsible for failed drug tests of boxers? This is a biggie, yeah? This is a real biggie.
I think...
Hang on, let me put the question. Don't you jump too early. Canelo Alvarez's trainer, Eddie Reynoso, has come under fire from Oscar De La Hoya. I wonder why. Jamie Menguia failed a drugs test. So, you know, me, and that's from the World Boxing News, right? So just getting it out there. Thank you guys very much for your support. Now, we're going to go back. We're going to look at the Edwin Minga campaign. We're going to look at others as well. Tyson Fury failed a drugs test. You've obviously got Jarrell Miller, huge failure of drug tests. At the moment, we've got a friend of the show going through the same thing in Dennis McCann. We've also had Conor Benn, and there it goes
allegedly
on
at the moment.
It's all allegedly. Allegedly. Okay, so
Conor Benn.
So, do you know what the? Wait, I'm going to read Devo's comment out in a minute. It's hilarious. He said, so realistically, the onus, you're reading it, stop. The onus falls upon the fighter. You know, falls upon the fighter.
Yeah, but also the trainers and coaches, they know exactly.
Yeah, but they don't. There is thousands of agents, enhancements and masking agents that you don't know exist in everyday products that you consume.
Listen,
So when I've got a bit of bunged up, I've got a nasal inhaler, right? So you put it, sniff it in, and it is a nasal inhaler before you start, right? Sniff it in, clears all the sinuses out. Makes you go, no, don't. It clears all the sinuses out, and bang. You know, they can't even take that. That's how bad it is, because it's considered a masking agent. Yeah. And it gets to the point that an athlete should be responsible for everything they put in their body, 100%.
Right, let me just hold you on that, right? What about if they go out for meals and they're being brought food? How do you know that the chef ain't going to stitch them up? We don't know that, or the waiter.
But here's where I think that I need to put a big supplier in here, a big caveat in here, right? So Debo said no, trainers can't see everything. Canelo just needs to change his steak supplier, right? And don't get eggs from Spain. Or what was it? I don't eat. Was it Tyson Fury's one? I ate a male bull. That's it. Yeah, don't eat them either. Apparently they got too much. Don't have sex with the wife. You know, if she's on HRT, don't. You know, it's just a list that goes on and on. Once you've got a chink in your armour, it don't go away that easy.
Listen, I think
is a different fighter.
Fight with Usyk woke Dubois up.
I don't. Do you know what? I don't necessarily think it woke him up.
I think he needed that.
I think what he got there was a boxing lesson that he'd never had. Daniel Dubois is probably the hardest puncher in terms of jab that there is on this planet.
And he didn't use it to his advantage.
So, from my point of view, when I sit there and I look at what we talk about, you know, if Don Charles has got him ready on that jab, and the fact he fights him the similar way to Derek Chisora fought him, I think Usyk's bang in trouble.
Yeah, I really do. Listen, I think if Usyk, you know, use his boxing technical skills on him, he probably keep Dubois at bay. But if he lets him steamroll in like he did against AJ and clocks him, I think Usyk can be in trouble.
Well, I think one of the things you've got to understand about Danny Dubois is he's one of the most naturally heavy-handed fighters there. And
I think Dave Allen has got a good chance against Wilder now. Wilder's lost his viciousness, his ferociousness.
Do you know what, Max? I don't know.
Well,
do you know what I love about Dave Allen? He'll take any sort of challenge, and he deserves everything. However, what I will say is that for me, what would be the point in that?
Well, they're talking about it, aren't they? So that'd be a good.
No, I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, what's the harm in it?
I think it's a good step-up fight for Dave Allen.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's great. I do think it's great, and I think that if you can do you know what I mean? That's the way I see it. You know, for me, I just wish that for my point of view, I just wish it weren't quite like that, because I like Dave Allen, I really do, and I think he'll do well. I think he's trying to jump on the bandwagon because he thinks he might actually beat Deontay Wilder. And do you know what?
I think he's got a very good chance of beating Wilder.
Yeah.
Listen, he's lost four out of his last fights.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think he has, but I think Wilder isn't the same fighter. You know,
yeah, 100%.
Not once in a million do I think he's the same fighter.
That fight for Dave Allen, I think Dave Allen sticks it straight on him.
I don't think so. Dave Allen is not quite a fighter like that. It's not exactly how he.
Wilder is not like he used to be, like a lunatic in the ring. He's lost it.
But he never was. For me, he never ever was. I told anyone who would want to sort of listen to me, and I said to him, you know, you've got to understand the nature of the animal you're trying to control. You lot think Usyk is really going to beat Dubois? This is hilarious, bro. No, I don't know if he's really going to beat it, but you know, my opinion is I think it depends on what Dubois shows up. It depends if that mental fortitude that Dubois should have is actually still there. This, for me, is Dubois' fight to lose, not Usyk's fight to win. This is how I see it, right? Because you should know by now that trying to outbox Usyk with probably the best boxer behind Usyk in Tyson Fury, who's actually a boxer with knockout power, you know you're not going to be able to box this man. We're talking former undisputed cruiserweight champion, former Olympic gold medalist, and, well, of course, former heavyweight undisputed world champion. You are not going to outbox this man. So how do you feel against Caleb Plant's fight? Didn't he lose?
Yeah, didn't he get beat up last night?
Yeah, he had
morning.
In the early hours of this morning for us, he certainly had a bit of a tough time, I heard. One thing I want to get rid of is this frigging myth in boxing, right? That just because you lose, that's it, your life is over. Do you know what I mean? Just because
listen, we've been over this so many times, right? There's so many greats out there who've got losses on their records, who went on to become champion, you know what I mean, and legendary, you know what I mean? This, for instance, you know, Muhammad Ali, he's lost. You know what I mean? Bruno lost, Tyson's lost, Fury's lost. You know what I mean? Don't think they're any less of people because they've lost. You know what I mean? Now look at Conor Benn. He's had his first loss, and he's going on to great things.
Now, age is just a number in a lot of people's minds, but what do we think about Pacquiao versus Barroso fight? Do we think that is not a great idea? Obviously, there's been talk of Pacquiao versus Conor Benn, but I want to know what people's opinions in this. Let me give you mine. So my opinion is that there needs to be certain age limits, and fighters do need protecting from themselves in a lot of cases, right? That is, in my view, absolutely paramount. Yeah, they need protecting in all sorts of cases. We're at a point where we've got to start protecting fighters from themselves. Do you know what I mean? I think age is just a number, but at the end of the day, there does come a chance when you're fighting someone who's, you know, world champion, who's in his prime, and you're perhaps not. So Bob Arum, right? Okay, so for all those who don't know who Bob Arum is, he is the owner of Top Rank. He's actually sent a warning to fans on Canelo versus Crawford fight. He's shown us what he is. And they'll face each other in September. And he doesn't think, the pound for gold, they'll lock horns in September time. And he doesn't think that Canelo is going to do the business. What do you think? So, Eltel says, do you think Fury Usyk 3 could happen? Listen, of course it can happen, but it's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the Benjamins. You know, if there's a massive offer on the table, I can't imagine that Tyson Fury would turn it down. I think that, you know, hopefully on the third fight that Tyson would win. It's very difficult. Who do you want to see Usyk fight? That's the thing. I mean, he's beat everybody at the top. I mean, you could argue... I mean, I've always argued this, and I've always talked about, you know, I really want to see Parker versus Usyk, because that'll test Usyk's boxing skill at heavyweight. Do you know what I mean? More so than anyone else, because the others... I think Tyson Fury was very close, but that's it. I want to go and talk about the Garcia Haney career. There's been some news coming out that essentially that the career has been wrecked by money, and I put a post out about it the other day, and I'm not sure. What do you guys think on that? Because you know, there's so much money in boxing. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, right? There's just mountains and mountains and mountains of it. But for me, I don't think it has ruined it. I think, you know, anyone who's in that position, you'd want to take the chance. The Derek Chisora thing was a blueprint of how you beat this man. You know, Chisora is, you know, can only be described as a tank, right? He goes in there, he doesn't give a monkeys, he'll fight hell for leather, couldn't give a rat's ass about who's done what, okay? But he wants to go in there, and I wonder if that is the blueprint that Daniel needs to follow. Don't try and outbox Usyk, because guess what? You're never going to do that in a million years. I've said it before, you've got a chink in your armour, right? When you produce that chink in the armour, like Daniel had when he fought Usyk the first time, and it's not the first time that there's been a knee taken, do you know what I mean? But for me, I'm wondering if this change in Daniel Dubois is something that may push Usyk over the edge. I think right back when you go back to Alexander Usyk's first heavyweight bout and he fought Derek Chisora, for me, it really does. I mean, the Fury we're used to loving and seeing, it will absolutely outbox AJ. Absolutely outbox AJ. But it depends on what Fury turns up. I think AJ made a mistake against Daniel Dubois. AJ was far too cocky, and you've got to ask the question, is AJ's punch resistance gone? AJ Fury signed for October. Now, that's alleged. Do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. It went down. There was rumours of Tyson Fury doing a bit of business. There was accusations flying backwards and forwards from Cobra to Carl Froch and all of that. Michael Scott says Fury can beat AJ however he wants. So let's get debating this. I believe Fury beats AJ. You know, they are two great stalwarts for British boxing and indeed for boxing around the world, and especially heavyweights. I think they're fantastic for the sport. I think both of them are past their prime. My good pal Max will tell you that they should have fought 5 years ago when it first started being touted. I thought the fight was going to be signed, or the original fight was signed between Matchroom and Queensberry. And of course it was going to end up a great big fight, but then Deontay Wilder took Tyson Fury to court, and then they had to fight. That fight went, and this never actually happened. But I don't know. I mean, I don't see anything more than a Fury win. If it depends which Fury turns up. I'm going to go on to Daniel Dubois, because he's sending a ruthless message to Usyk. I'll smash your head in and take all your belts. Well, I think you've got a long way to go, son. You know, you want to be doing that. You're talking about probably the best world champion that's come up in the last 20, 25 years especially in the heavyweight division. Completely decorated champion right the way through the amateurs, the Olympics, the cruiserweight, and now the heavyweight division. So it's a little bit difficult to see how you're going to smash his head in. But Daniel, I'm a patriot first and foremost. The Brits, I've got your corner. I wish you nothing but the best. But I'm not quite sure it's going to be as easy as I'm just going to walk in and smash his head in. But never mind. Also in other news, Jake Paul talks of chasing world titles. And I said on the last live, how about you fight a real fighter for once? And apparently that's gone a bit viral, and I'm waiting for him, or probably his lawyers, to message me and say, who do you think you are? Well, let me tell you who I think you are. I'm the poor schmuck who's been paying to watch your pay-per-views because I'm a big boxing fan and I'll watch anything where someone gets punched in the face, right? So that's pretty much me. So stop foaming me off with all this nonsense and these crappy MVP belts that don't mean anything in terms of the boxing scene. Fantastic bit of gold jewellery, and do feel free to send one my way and it can go up on the wall behind me. Lovely. Do me great. However, the nonsense that you're spouting, son, needs to be reined in a little bit. And I don't know if anyone else actually agrees with me on that. Now, the next question: can Josh Taylor become a world champion at 147 pounds? I'm not sure. What do you think, Dee? If you ask me a question there, I'll certainly gladly answer them for you. So, do you think that Josh Taylor can become a world champion at 147? I think, you know what? I think he's got it in him. I really think he's got it in him. Sort of the rule goes, or the general rule is, if you get down in weight, as the further down in weight you get, the younger you seem to retire. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, realistically, I think he's still got it in him, but it's going to be harder for him. The reason is, I believe, is they fight at such a higher pace the lighter you are. So that's why it doesn't not tend to go on too far, really. Dillian White's last shot at a world title. I'm going to give it everything I got. I don't think I've ever seen a fight where Dillian White doesn't give it everything he's got. I think at his age, he's nearly 40 years old. Questions will start to be asked. The last thing a fighter loses is his punch power, but not his punch resistance. So, I don't know if he's ever been the same fighter since he lost to Tyson Fury, where he claimed he was pushed over. But, for me, it's just one of those things. I think he could still go up there, but I don't think he's got a world title in him. I think he'll hit a brick wall when he comes to someone like Moses Atauma. He's certainly not going to